lighten the mood because there really is actually a lot of pretty depressing news to get to. But we will start in I don't know. This is very Trump. It's depressing and it's disturbing and it's very funny. This is Donald Trump talking about Florence, this horrible hurricane that people in the Carolinas are dealing with. And, just think of there's one specific term about water that you'll probably catch in this one.
I just want to thank all of the incredible men and women who have done such a great job in helping with Florence. This is a tough hurricane, one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Rarely have we had an experience like it, and it certainly is not good. But the people of North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, all of the areas affected, you've been incredible. There's been a loss of life, and may God be with them and their families. That's a tough one. It's tough to understand, but this has been a really difficult period of time for a lot of people. FEMA, the job you've done, the military, Coast Guard, what you've done in saving so many lives has been really something special. Law enforcement, always. Again, I just want to thank everybody for doing such a great job with a very difficult situation. Florence has been a nasty one, a big one, like that area certainly has never seen before. So the waters are still rising. Listen to your state and local authorities. Be patient, be alert, and God bless you.
It sounds like he's doing like shout outs in the end of like after doing 4 fire verses.
You mean, well, yeah, but except not really. It sounds like he's doing shout out on like maybe a remix you don't care about and you're really high.
Do you want to hear a remix?
Yeah, I do.
You've been incredible. There's been a loss of life, and may God be with them and their families. That's a tough one. It's tough to understand, but this has been a really difficult period of time for a lot of people. FEMA, the job you've done, the military, Coast Guard, what you've done in saving so many lives has been really something special. Law enforcement, always. Again, I just want to thank everybody for doing such a great job with a very difficult situation. Florence has been a nasty one.
You know what? The part that you're most right about in terms of the shout out after fire verses is like the way he says and law enforcement is the same way that a rapper says their city, like and Queensbridge, like, you know, like it's always like backed, like it's like, and of course Queensbridge, like you always go there. It's like, and law enforcement, of course we got to shout out law enforcement
forever.
You know what's funny about this is an interesting Trump mode because he's obviously, we know, like when he's raging or he's bloviating or he's like on a narcissistic high, but usually when he's like bored and disinterested he gets like really bitchy. But this is like he's bored obviously because he's just like, yeah, there's water and it's a lot, but he's sort of like, they voted for me, so I'll be like affably, like it's like a kid who can't be quiet somewhere but like in a non-temper tantrum way. It's like that's an interesting Trump mode when he's just like, I don't really give a fuck, but whatever. We love Carolina, and of course, shouts to law enforcement. Lots of water.
He sounds like he's shilling Trump steaks when he's in this mode.
No,
like,
he's way more serious about Trump steaks than this. Right, way more serious about Trump steaks.
Better spend more time on the copy.
No, he's in funeral selfie mode right now.
That's yes. Funeral for like somebody
funeral selfie
that he doesn't feel he needs to pretend that they died too much.
So yesterday he went on Twitter saying, right now everybody is saying what a great job we are doing with Hurricane Florence, and they are 100% correct. But don't be fooled. At some point in the near future, the Democrats will start ranting. The mic's in the way.
That's great.
That FEMA, our military, and our first responders, who are all unbelievable. I don't know if that unbelievable means when he thinks
love
of these,
his word choices,
are a disaster
man.
and not doing a good job. This will be a total lie, but that's what they do, and everybody knows it! Exclamation point.
Always the exclamation point. We'll get to the serious note of this for a second. And I'm quoting now from the Raleigh Observer. And do we actually, Brendan, would you mind looking up the amount of people? I don't want to feel like we're glossing over.
The death count's at 32, according to The Guardian.
Okay, so already, obviously, this is already a terrible event, and a lot of people have lost their lives. And it's going to take a lot in a lot of ways to get out from this. But this specifically is actually a really serious problem from a public health environmental perspective. The Raleigh News and Observer says the number of hogs and poultry killed in Hurricane Florence flooding has already doubled the casualties from Matthew in 2016, and the losses are expected to mount this week as new information comes from farmers as they gain access to their properties. And basically, the hog lagoons pose, and I'm continuing to quote, hog lagoons are literally fecal matter and runoff from these torture cages that they keep pigs in, which even for those of us, I don't eat pork products, but I'm not a vegetarian. But I would say that, like, the condition that these animals are held in should be a strong moral objection for everybody, including people who aren't vegetarians or vegans. I mean, it's just obscene, savage cruelty. And there's a lot of movements actually from the industry to attempt to criminalize reporting and exposure of their abuses across the board, in this case pigs. So basically these pigs are kept in these torture cages. They don't move. They have very little air. They're fed a terrible diet. They're pumped out and they're murdered. And basically their waste is in these lagoons. And I think is this actually a picture of what we're talking about?
It's a picture, yeah.
This is a lagoon to give you the sense of the scope and the size. That is, and pardon my language, but this is literally like a pig shit lake.
Well,
Right,
this isn't technically the pig shit. Like,
well, this is not the pig
This
shit.
is where the pigs live, and you can see they drowned in those.
They
things.
drown. Okay, but where are the
I can
lagoons
look for a lagoon.
Oh,
here.
okay, I understand. This is the cages where they've drowned. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, got it. And obviously, the rotting corpses of all these animals is a major problem in and of itself for things like E. coli. But these lagoons of waste, which already pose serious threats to local waterways and soil erosion and things like that on a good day, are amplified in this crisis situation. Hog lagoons pose an environmental contamination risk because swine feces and urine contain bacteria pathogens including Salmonella, E. coli, and fecal coliform. Hog lagoons are the most common way. That's the brown thing. That literally is it. Yeah. So take a look at this. This is on a mass industrial scale. This is the way we do farming in this country and in any industrialized country with no regulations on this thing. Hog lagoons are the most common way farmers process pig waste, a treatment system in which microorganisms break down waste matters into nutrients and byproducts that can be used as fertilizer. However, the public health risks from hog lagoons, and it goes on. Now, this is all happening at the same time that the Trump administration is moving forward new moves to weaken protections around chemical plants. Since it made rainfall, now I'm quoting from The Hill, since it made rainfall, Florence continues to wreak havoc. The storm was attempted to drop 18 trillion gallons of rain over the course of a week, enough to fill the Chesapeake Bay. That can mean a flooding at more than 1,000 sites in the storm's path where toxic chemicals are used or stored. If these facilities are damaged, they could release chemicals that threaten public health and the environment. Why, then, is the Trump administration's EPA seeking to weaken regulation aimed at preventing this exact kind of disaster across the country? More than 2,500 toxic chemical waste sites are located in areas at high risk of flooding. The changing climate makes floods more likely. Those risks will only grow. That's why the U.S. Chemical Safety Board and independent federal investigators urge companies, emergency planners, and regulators to assess the chemical industry's preparedness for hurricane floods. Despite these risks, the Trump EPA is currently working to gut the risk management program rule. So, the answer we all know is obvious, of course, which is that all of the Republican Party is purely a subsidiary of any corporate interest in America. And also, as with all of these other long-standing problems we're dealing with, these policies were not addressed and in many cases expedited and supported by Democratic politicians who also received significant campaign contributions from the agriculture industry. So, and I think that's also useful, like when a tragedy, something strikes that is, that's like a hurricane. So we could obviously probably connect it to the climate crisis. I think, I don't know. There is that kind of like disaster porn phenomenon and the weather guys with their, rain jackets and everything. And it's like, look, I think obviously people should donate to credible and legitimate sources for mutual aid and relief to help people there. And then the other value is to cover these stories in such a way that they expose the structural issues that they go to the heart of. And we literally have this incredible timing of another relentless storm that is going to pose huge environmental and public health implications. And of course, the Trump administration and the Republican Party are planning a whole lot more for us.